this is Lisa Ingram and welcome back. This is part 2 of adult folded flower bowls. So we're going to talk about cleaning these up and glazing them. So I'm going to show you a little bit up close of what mine looks like. So I have gone back with a paintbrush and cleaned up these seams and just kind of dusted out any clay crumbs that I see. And then on the back, I did the same. And one little trick for helping these seams come together is just to take your end of your paintbrush and run it along that edge and then flip it over and use some water and brush it along that edge to smooth it out, and everything comes together really nicely like that. So I look for clay crumbs, I look for rough spots, and I look for anything that might be a crack, and I try to rub that out. And then also, I sign the bottom here. So don't forget to sign yours. You can put initials. You don't have to put your full name. Mine's a stamp, so that's why it's so little. But do make sure you sign it so I know who to get it back to. That will be a lot of help for me. And so now I'm ready to glaze it. So this one, I let it set out and dry in the studio for a couple hours and then decided I wasn't going to glaze it yesterday. So I wrapped it up overnight and it's ready today to glaze. So it's not flexible anymore like it was yesterday. It's hard, but it hasn't turned completely white. So this clay, it turns a lighter shade of white once it dries. So it's not completely dry yet. It's okay if it is not dry, it's just going to be a lot more fragile. So when you pick it up, you want to pick it up with it supported. So this is safe. If I was to pick it up by the edge like this, it could potentially crack a piece off. So just handle it with care. When you need to turn it, use both hands. And you probably won't have a turntable like this, but you can still use 2 hands and turn it like this rather than by the rim, because this is just going to be very fragile. If by some chance your piece does break, if it's just in 2 or 3 pieces, you can finish painting it and I'll do my best to get it back together. Usually I can fix things if they are in just a few pieces, but you shouldn't have a problem if you handle it with some care. And this is the best stage to glaze it at to avoid those kinds of problems. So I just wanted to touch on that first for the troubleshooting side of it. And I'm always here for questions if you need that. So all you're gonna need for this, you're gonna have little cups with your glaze in it. We don't glaze the bottom. We're gonna do the sides and the interior and the edges. So I have a little palette here that I'm gonna put my colors in, and then you'll want 3 paintbrushes, at least 3. And you wanna give your colors a little bit of a stir. I've got Blue Isle right here. I'm gonna shake mine up. And I've got Grapple, which is purple. They all have really funny names. I like all these names. This one's called Pinkaboo. Actually, I have a little bottle of Pinkaboo I want to use right here. It's a really, really light pink, almost clear. I'm gonna kind of dust it on top, and then the purple. So I'm gonna squeeze that in here. Okay, so I'm gonna pick some brushes that are gonna help me cover some ground. Some decent sized brushes. Maybe like, I'll start with this one. Okay, so the difference between these glazes and paint that you would use, excuse me, glazes that you would use on a regular basis, or paints you'd use on a regular basis, are that they're gonna look very pastel here, but in the kiln they will get nice and bright. So the colors that you saw on the computer are a better example of what these are going to turn into. So while this looks very lavender, it's gonna come out more grape. This Blue Isle will be a lot deeper. And then the pink, this pink is just a little bit deeper, not much, but everything's gonna get shiny and glossy in the kiln. So that's one thing to note. The other is that we do multiple coats. So we need to do 2 to 3 multiple coats to make it look solid and not see brush strokes or see the clay through it. So you should have plenty of glaze to do multiple coats. So I'm gonna do, let's see, I'm gonna do the petals blue and purple. The middle will be pink. So I think I'll do the middle last, and I'm gonna start on a little bit of blue for my petals. All right. Nope, I'm gonna start purple. Still working this out in my head. So here we go. So I'm gonna hold this up so you can see. And I'm supporting it by the bottom so it's safe. It's not gonna break on me. I'm not worried about brush strokes. I'm just gonna go for it. And so it just glides on. It's not gonna cover up your texture. It just sort of lays on the surface. You can see it's really light, but it's really going to change on you. And so you've got to let it dry between coats. So I'm just gonna work my way around, and I'm just not gonna fuss too much. If I leave a little blank spot, I know I can come back and get that on the next go around. Especially down in these little cracks, it's easy to miss a spot. But I'm just gonna do sort of the edge, and then the middle I'll do with the blue aisle. The first bowl that I did, it's actually in the kiln right now. I sent it through for another firing to mature the glaze, the clay a little bit more. But I did it with candy red apple and orange peel, and it is really, really bright. So it's like fire engine red and bright orange. So this one, I just wanted to use some cooler colors and have a contrasting bowl to go with that. So I've got a hot one, a hot colors one, and this will be a cool colors. And I know when these come out of the kiln, I'm gonna wanna keep all of them because they're gonna be so beautiful. And I'm just gonna go around like I'm doing twice. This is a nice deep color, so I think twice will be plenty. And so these will be glaze fired. This, we call it in Potter Talk, cone 6 clay. And so I'll fire it to 2200 degrees. My kiln's right behind me. Well, right behind you, it's in front of me. And I usually just fire it overnight, and it took about 8 hours. I fired it last night. Took a little over 8 hours to do the cycle, and it's cooling down right now. So it cools down for about a day. But there's a look at the inside. So that's round 1. So now the trick is, I'm gonna start round 2 right here. The trick is to remember where you started so you know how many coats you did. So I guess I can make a little mark. I'll just make a little dot right here. Just a tiny little dot. And that will be the petal that I need to stop on. So you can see this, where it's lighter, it's changed colors, so I can go ahead and do my second coat on there. And usually it does not take long to dry. If your clay has a little bit more water in it, it will need a little more time to dry. And so for this video's purpose, I'm just going to do the inside, and then on my own I'll come back and I'll paint the outside and the rim. But you can do 2 or 3 coats, just what your amount of glaze allows. You can paint blue on top of purple. You can mix your colors so you can lighten up. Like I could lighten up my blue with my pink. And so you can get creative with what you have. You can use sponges to sponge paint. And there's a lot that you can do to mix this up and make it your own. But usually, once I get enough glaze on here, I don't see brush strokes when I'm done, and I get a nice solid coverage. As long as I did 2 to 3 really good coats and I don't see clay peeking through. So that's what you want to look for. It's easy right now to see where is the glaze and where is the clay. And so paying attention to those cracks, especially on this second go around, I'm just paying attention to where I missed the first time. I know I've got to pay some attention to the rim, and I'll do that after I finish the interior, paying attention to the bottom, and then I'll pay attention to where the colors meet and just do a little bit of an overlap. And it's always fun to see what these colors look like when they overlap. I think I've got about 3 more petals to go, and they are drying really well. And it's fun to think about how much these will change. I have a really small palette right here, so I always have to continuously fill it up. With the texture, if you've got a little bit of deep texture, you just want to spend a little bit more time working that glaze down into the grooves that you made in your decorations. There's my little mark. I've got 2 petals to go. No one can see that mark but me. This is the last petal. So now, while this purple dries, I'll go in and do the middle. So I've got this pink, got my Pinkaboo. Use a little bit. I'm gonna use a softer bristle brush just so I don't scratch the clay right here. And just gonna work that in here. With the texture, like these little dots, you just have to spend a little bit of time swirling it in there. And there's all kinds of ways to do this. You can do the middle so many different colors. I could have done like a mix of some of the pink and purple and done some of that in the middle. But for this one, I just want pink. And I'm just kind of tapping it in there just to get in that uneven surface. This is coat 1. So if I miss a spot, I can always come back and fix it. And any of them that look really full with glaze, I'm gonna try and get that leveled out a little bit so that it's not just caked with glaze. There we go. So that's pink in the middle. It looks pretty similar, but I know The middle's got one coat of pink, and the petals have two coats of purple. Okay, so here we go with the blue. The blue's going in these naked spots right here. And I'm just kind of tapping it on there. I want it to have sort of this splotchy look, especially where it overlaps. I want to have a good little overlap so that I've got some interesting effect right there. All right, petal 2. It's hard to keep track of when you're doing multiple colors of how many layers you've done. It's really easy to forget where you are. So just pay attention to that. And so I've almost got the whole inside covered. And then when you get it done, then you'll just let it dry. You can put it in a draft-free area and let it dry. You can cover it back up with your plastic to let it dry slowly. That'll help prevent further cracks, especially if your house is, if you're keeping this in your house, you're going to have airflow in there. So you can cover it with your plastic very loosely and then just let it slowly dry until you bring it back for the firing. And then I let them dry all the way. In my studio, I've got fans out here and a dehumidifier. I dry them out really good. And then I fire them twice in the kiln. And then they go back to you. So these will be ready for summer serving dishes, summer decorations, gifts, all that good stuff. I love these. They're so pretty. Okay, so I made it all the way around with the blue. You can see I've got spaces in the bottom that I need to cover with some glaze. I've got the rim to cover with glaze and the outside. So I've still got a little bit more work to do. I'm gonna work on that while I let it dry, and I'm gonna leave the rest to your creativity. So I can't wait to see what you do. Have fun. This is a really fun part, and be gentle with it because it is fragile. It is unfired. So good luck, and I'm here if you have any questions. Okay, bye.